Hi there. In this lecture we see Rashid Nezhmetdinov against Alexey Suetin in 1947, 7th RSFSR Championship. So e4 from Nezhmetdinov, we have a Sicilian Defense, knight f3, knight c6. So open Sicilian, d4, c takes, knight takes d4, knight f6, knight c3, d6, bishop g5, e6, bishop c4, a6, and now Nezhmetdinov takes on c6, b takes, e5. We have queen a5. So now the pawn is pinned to the bishop here. So if e takes, there's queen takes g5. So we have giving up this bishop here, bishop takes f6, g takes, and now e takes d6. Queen e5 check, which inconveniences the white king. Queen takes d6, queen f3. So here, superficially, black looks solid enough with the bishop pair, but we get this tempo gainer, rook d1. And now an aggressive move, what would you play here? And there's something really, really interesting coming up, which I think is quite instructive about this game. Well as this. g4, we have f takes g4. And we can see with g4 we're getting a semi-open file on the f file potentially. Just bear that in mind, and bear in mind if that pawn wasn't there on f7, we could actually control potentially escape squares on the f file if we had a rook on f3. Just bear that notion in mind about controlling king escape squares. Queen takes g4, bishop b7. We have now what is potentially an absolutely brilliant move, but a brilliant move, the success of it is really often dependent on the follow-up. So this next move is actually brilliant. Okay, so can you guess it? But can you guess the follow-up? I might have given a clue. A ridiculously, strange follow-up. So bishop takes e6 is played, f takes, and now it does seem logical, at least for humans, I would say, to take on e6. It's a free pawn, just waiting to be taken there. It is actually an inaccuracy. There's one really powerful, profound follow-up, and there's one more straightforward one here. A more straightforward one is queen h5 check. So let's say queen f7, white could just take on f7 and then play rook d7 check, and does have an advantage here, a pawn up. But actually, there's what I can only describe as a profound move engines come up with, rook g1. And actually, the logic of it is sometimes it's good for rook g3 to f3. And why does white have time for this kind of maneuver, you might ask? It is fascinating. It's like the rooks are stuck. The opponent's rooks are stuck here, and I'll show you, one resource, a5 from black. Let's try a5. Queen takes e6 check here, and just coming back to g4. And here, for example, queen g6 check, and then taking that mechanism is good again. Let's say queen e7, rook g3. And now, let's say bishop h6, we can just bounce off h5 to win h6. So forget bishop h6. Let's say rook d8, queen h5 check. Here we can just take on d8 and win material. So let's say a5, then this idea of rook f3. And you can see, actually, you know what? Doesn't matter about the pawn on e6. Our rook is now controlling two key escape squares. The other rook's controlling another two key escape squares. So actually, the bishop takes e6 sacrifice has enabled both rooks to take out two escape squares each, which means now this check is promoted in value in effect. It's more of a deadly threat, queen h5. So this is a fascinating variation where, let's say bishop a6 check. So here, knight e2 is accurate. And let's say taking... So we're left with this queen h5 is a big threat. Let's say queen g7, queen e4, hitting c6 and e6 here. This position, now king f1, so that queen takes is threatened without queen e7, pinning the queen to the king. And basically black is starting to collapse here. Queen g4 has numerous threats now. So say king d8, queen g3, and white is 2 pawns up. With this pin, can win more material, in fact, check, and then win the queen. It is fascinating, but technically, this is the strongest move, which shows, actually, that a brilliant move, it's like, does A follow B and B, does B follow A, C follow B, but there's something very, very subtle about this first step, which is difficult, I would say, for humans to realise, this notion of taking out more escape squares via rook g1 to g3 to f3. It's ridiculous, basically. So Nezhmetdinov is human. He just took on e6 here, which is in inaccuracy. So bishop e7 is actually a mistake. With queen e7, the point is here, even though this looks really logical to clear out the e file, in this particular position, so that's the threat, black has a5 with a counter threat of bishop a6. Yeah, the king position on f1 doesn't help sometimes. So let's say rook d3, queen c5, and it ends up being a position which, well, it's only going to get actually theoretically a small edge if we follow this play. And you might ask, well, what about, say, queen f5? In this case, bishop c8, with careful defense, black should be okay. Black is material up, and sometimes, yeah, the defender now here in this position is getting the upper hand with the extra material and winning material. The king on f1 doesn't help in some of these variations, as this shows more vividly. But anyway, so in the game though, after queen takes e6, yes, this is a mistake. Knight e4. So very powerful threats now, like knight f6, and then just having rook g1, you know, coming potentially for rook g8s and stuff. We have bishop c8, knight f6 check, king f8, and now another inaccuracy, actually, rook d7. One has to play super accurately when one is material down. This is the big warning about brilliant play, sacrificing material. Knight d7 check here is more accurate for rook g1 in this position. And yes, that celebration of the rook without a kind of counterpart rook. This rook's like asleep in bed, and so is that one. And in fact, you know, rook g8 check here is going to be scooping up material. It's going to be winning back all the material with interest. So anyway, rook d7 though was played, and we have bishop takes d7. Another mistake which helps Nezhmetdinov. In fact, queen d6 here, using that pin, would lead to a situation which is basically even. Black has that 2 bishops for a rook. Even though black is down 3 pawns, it's about even. But anyway, bishop takes d7 was played. Knight takes d7 check. King e8, knight f6 check, king d8. And now there is a brilliant move played here. Non-controversially brilliant. Yeah, capitalizing on black's mistakes. What would you play in this position? And it's simple and logical, actually. Yeah, just king e2, so we can threaten rook d1 check. So we have queen d6. If bishop takes f6, rook d1 check, rook takes d6, we're just going to win lots of material here. Or, you know, in fact, we could just go for the checkmate. So queen d6 is tried, rook d1. So queen takes d1 check, king takes, bishop takes. The queen is actually better than the 2 rooks on this occasion in this particular position, because the king has issues. There's fragmented pawns in black's camp, and you know, this would be a big advantage. Actually, the game ended after king b6, c4, the game actually ended here. So yes, I just gave an example here. a5, queen e3 check, king c2. White is standing better and is going to be making progress in this position. Black's fragmented pawns are not helping. So anyway, it shows actually, even though this isn't a totally brilliantly implemented game, for me, one big takeaway is that this idea of B follows A, there's something super subtle about this sacrifice. The subtle effects for the art of checkmate, that we can get to control escape squares and make our key checks like queen h5 check much more effective. In particular, this is like super subtle stuff, quite amazing really, that this would be, this would be a truly brilliant follow-up. So okay, I hope you got something out of this game. Nice game in any case, helped by Black's mistakes. Thanks so much. All comments, questions, likes and subscribes really appreciated. Thanks so much.